Hi, I'm Kim. Hi. I hate when I start out with saying so. Today is April 19th, Saturday, April 19th, and today is Healing Circle Day. Today, the Healing Circle is with myself. So I wanted to take a moment and just kind of talk through and think through some things. I don't know if I will post this publicly. We'll see when I finish talking. Um, but I did want to take a moment and kind of just capture life right now. So today is the Saturday in between Good Friday and Easter Sunday when Jesus is fighting the devil. Okay, you down there getting the keys to hell and making sure that we have access to eternal life and salvation. Okay. It's interesting. I don't really necessarily think of myself as a Christian anymore, and it's weird. It's really weird. I think of myself as someone who absolutely believes in God and absolutely believes in and knows Jesus. And Jesus is my savior. Okay. I thank God for Jesus. You know what? One of my favorite movies is The Shack. I feel like this would be a phenomenal time to watch it. I think I'm gonna do that today. So anyway, the reason I thought about the shack is because the shack is the first time that I ever feel like I really understood how the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost work together. I don't like saying Holy Ghost, the Holy Spirit. It's not. But anyway, in that movie, The Shack, God is Octavia Butler, which I absolutely love. I'm still working on I don't know why I feel like I need to personify God. I think that I grew up thinking that way. So I'm working on that because I feel like to even try to personify God and put God in the place of a human puts God in a box because God is so much bigger than that. But anyway, the reason I brought it up is because that's the first time that I saw God depicted as a woman and not just any woman, a black woman, and not just any black woman, a black woman who lives in a larger body. So whether that's plus size or whatever, but not your ideal stereotypical light skinned, palatable to the eye black woman. I like that. I like that a lot. But yeah, it's the first time that I saw the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. And I said it again, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit interacting in a way that made sense to me. And yeah, I think I'm gonna watch that today. Cause yeah, my idea of God has shifted so much over life. I remember every time I think about the shift in how large and omnipresent and omniscient, so omnipresent everywhere all at the same time, omniscient, all knowing, all powerful. When I think about God in those terms, I've done a grave disservice to try to make God be a person, like putting God into person form. Like it is very much um, not indicative of who God really is. And the more that I live and the longer that I live, the more that God shows up and the more that I understand how big that God really is and how the brand of Christianity that we received very much puts God into a box, and not just any box, into a harmful box of a God that wants us to live a life of oppression, and especially as Black people, I'm talking about the Black experience. Okay, what the brand of Christianity, when I say that we were given, I'm talking about Black people that grew up in the United States of America. And I'm also going to specify that to the South because I feel like that's a special brand. And I don't know because I never lived up north, but this is me speaking through the lens of what I experienced. And for that, let me give you some context. Also, I didn't know this is what I was going to talk about today, but I love this. So, I grew up, okay, how do I frame this? So I do not remember a time of me being like, oh, there's this concept of God, right? So I had been in church and I was in a Lutheran school from preschool through eighth grade. So preschool started about 3 years old and up through eighth grade, so Lutheran. And then I went to a Catholic high school from ninth grade to 12th grade. In our personal life, we were Lutheran up until the time I got christened in a Lutheran church. And we were Lutheran up until about eight, I think 8 or 9, somewhere around that, because my brother was born. So we shifted from Lutheran to Full Gospel Baptist and grew up Full Gospel Baptist through elementary school, high school, and in college. And then once I graduated from college, I left and I went to Florida, Tampa, and then I became non-denominational. So actually, one of the first church that I joined in Tampa was Without Walls. And at that time, Without Walls was pastored by Randy and Paula White. Paula White, the now infamous, I need the handle, descend, but Trump, staunch Trump supporter and advisor, Paula White. Like that still kind of messes with my mind a lot. Like, how was that lady my pastor? And what did I take in that lady said? Oh my. Um, yeah. So anyway, I have had a lot of experience with God and church and Christianity through different lenses. Now, I did not grow up in a super restrictive environment. So, Full Gospel Baptist, we definitely had to follow rules, if you will, which also sounds so crazy now at this point in life. But anyway, we had to follow rules, but it wasn't like everything's going to send you to hell. That was not the messaging that we were receiving. Whereas people who were in Church of God in Christ, for instance, which I don't know a lot about their history and all that kind of stuff. So don't come for me if you want to inform, great, but also I don't really know. But what I have experienced with people who have been from Church of God in Christ or like apostolic religion denominations, that they had a kind of everything you do is going to send you to hell type of mentality. So you can't wear earrings, you can't wear makeup. Like me having a nose ring, girl, get out of here. You're heathen, you're Jezebel. I could only imagine. No red lipstick, no shoulders out. Girl, you're in the wilderness. So the reason I brought that up is because I'm sorry, I was following my nails. When I was in Tampa, okay, so I'm sorry, my brain is all over the place. And also, I'm not sorry. Go with me, get on the train, follow the chaos, but it's organized chaos. So I was at Randy and Paula White's church. And TD Jakes used to come there all the time and different pastors like that I was familiar with from Full Gospel. So I felt very comfortable being at the church, and the church was mostly Black. It was diverse, but it was very Black and very much Black leaning, which now it was clearly a ploy because I don't know about Randy's politics, but baby Paula, child, she done girl. So after I left, I was at Without Walls for a while, and then I left Without Walls because I started dating my ex. And I referred to my ex as my ex. And what I also need to know about my ex is that he was incredibly abusive. So I spent 13 years trying to get out of an abusive relationship with him. But he was a person of the church. His parents were pastors, and he claimed to be a minister. I don't really know how true that was, but because his parents were pastors, I guess it gets handed down. I don't know. But what I can say is at that point is when I started getting behind the scenes understanding of, oh, y'all don't really know God. Like y'all just doing whatever. But it took a long time, right? Because at first it was like, I want to show that I'm a good Christian. Like I want to be a godly person, right? So if you are telling me that I need to behave in certain ways in order to do that, I'm all for it, right? So for instance, oh my God, there are just so many things that happened in that relationship and with that experience in regards to religion. But I'll try to stay focused. So when I left Without Walls, I went to join his parents' church with him. And that was interesting because in the time that I was dating him in 2006, and when we started dating, and the time that I transitioned out, which was about 2009, he had already been incredibly abusive, and his parents have been very supportive of his abuse, right? But I'm deep in trying to get out. So we started going over to the parents' church, and it was just incredibly dysfunctional. Like the way that they talked to each other, they would be fighting, they would be doing all kinds of things. And then when they left church, like we were having sex. So this is interesting. His siblings had hella kids, like the sisters had had traumatic childhoods of whether they had left home or had many children. Like it was just a lot. It was a lot that was going on in that family. They had a history of teen pregnancy in the family, and it was it was so much. And they were abusive to each other. So then it really wasn't making sense to me because I thought, oh, I would definitely be able to go to them for help, but y'all just as abusive. So this is normal. And like I just started like asking more questions and paying attention. It really took me a long time to get out of that. But over that time, I was collecting information to help deprogram my mind. So anyway, so we're at the parents' church, I'm gonna say for like 2 years. This is where I'll say some good things that happened. This is where I started being on the praise team. The church wasn't small. I mean, the church wasn't large. It was very small. So prior to this, I had been in mega churches. So I grew up again in New Orleans, Full Gospel Baptist. I went to Greater St. Stephen's. So we had, I don't know, 10,000 members or something. I don't know. It was crazy. It was a lot. And then when I went to Nashville, I was a part of Mount Zion, and Mount Zion, Bishop Joseph Walker is the current presiding bishop over the International Full Gospel Fellowship Conference. Um, and that church had probably the same, like 10,000. It was a lot. Like it was very easy to go to church and be in church, but also not really be known like that. Nobody was really looking for you unless you were in a small group. Like nobody was really looking for you from Sunday to Sunday, so it was very easy to go be a member, be fed, right? So once I got to Without Walls, I again had that same mentality. Without Walls had thousands and thousands and thousands of members. This was the first time at my ex's parents' church that I had ever been a part of a church that was like maybe 100 people, maybe 200 on the books. I don't know. But from any given Sunday, it was maybe 40 people, 30, 40, 50 maybe people per Sunday. So it's real easy to be known, right? Then I'm dating the pastor's son. Come to find out, he was a hoe, a male whore. Okay. So he had been bringing girls, and I knew some of this, but also I'm trying to be, potential first lady and be a good Christian. All that. Anyway, so that's the place where I started singing on the praise team. And it helped to increase my confidence because though I can hold a note. I actually did take music classes in school, and I have been in a choir of some sort since I was in preschool. So I have always sung, and I know how to read music, and like I have received training from some of the best music people. Like Jermaine Basil was my chorus teacher in high school. Miss Basil is a jazz singer in New Orleans. Miss Basil's still yet holding on too. Somebody posted a picture of her the other day, and I want to say she's like 89 or something. But man, that lady, she used to be like, pull the tones to the top of the head, to the top of the head, round your toes. I love Miss Basil so much. She was the best. But anyway, I just say that to say I have received world class singing training, and also I can't really sing like that. So, but I appreciated that my gift was able to be used in that church, right? So that is where I started singing on the praise team. So then stuff was real crazy at that church. And I know I keep saying that and I'm not like expanding on things, but also it's hard to even make it make sense because it was really just, I guess the way I can describe it, they were so incredibly ugly to each other and to me. And then you would turn around and be a pastor. Like it wasn't matching. Hypocrisy was at an all-time high. Okay. So without going down all those rabbit holes, that was probably from 2009 to 2011. So at this point, I'm like, this is a lot. Like, I don't know what I signed up for. We also got engaged in 2011, and I knew I wasn't getting married. We got engaged at the parents' house, and it was very interesting. It was on Christmas Day, and it was a horrible day. The day started off just incredibly horrible, and he was treating me so horrible that day, and then had the nerve to get down on one knee, kind of, and it was a lot. It was theatrics. So but soon after that, he had a mentor, and the mentor was from his college time. So he went to Lee University, which I now know is an indoctrination center, but it was in Tennessee near Chattanooga, and it's a Christian school. And like, I wasn't making the connections at the time of like how much indoctrination had happened. I'm making those connections now. But anyway, so while he was there, his church there, that pastor was developing a church in Orlando. So we lived in Tampa. So the pastor reaches out to him for him to be the minister of music. And he's like, I want you to help me with this build this church. And, it's going to be in Orlando and da, 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 da. So I was ready to leave the parents' church because that was dysfunctional. They were like having all out fist fights. Like they were fighting each other. And then they would get up on the pulpit and perform. Like it was a lot. It was a lot. So anyway, the mentor pastor reaches out and he was like, I want you to come to Orlando. So we make the decision to join this church in Orlando, to help build this church in Orlando. So mind you, we are driving from Tampa to Orlando every Sunday. Orlando, not Kissimmee. So Kissimmee is like 45 minutes away. Orlando is like an hour and a half away. So we are doing that every Sunday to go and serve at this church. And the mentor pastor was very much somebody who like was real flashy and, just kind of had access and stuff or whatever, but it was all talking a good game the whole time. And it wasn't really translating into the action of actual ministry. So we get to that church, and at that church, I become the announcements person. And, so every Sunday I would get up and I would read the announcements and I would welcome everyone and all that, right? So I'm very much definitely seen. And sometimes I would have to sing because that church had maybe 15 people, maybe 20 on a good day. It wasn't a lot. And there was this whole facility that had been built out with like all of the, it was so interesting because it never translated into people coming. And it really was because it just wasn't right. It just wasn't right. And I didn't know. I didn't know how to use my gift of discernment at the time fully. And I was still immersed in this abusive relationship. So I'm trying to prove myself. So anyway, we were at that church. I'm going to say maybe a year, maybe not even a year. But basically what happened was I had a brand new car and I'm sitting here driving from Tampa to Orlando every Sunday And all of these miles are on my brand new car. So I'm watching like the miles. I had the brand new car for, I had worked on my credit. So the car was like 0% interest, 10-year, 100,000 mile bumper to bumper warranty or something, And I'm looking at 30,000 miles that have been accumulated in a year. And I'm like, this is not how this is supposed to go. Like, that's not what this is supposed to look like. So I started being like, I'm not going to be able to keep doing this. And his car was so trash. He dropped the BMW, and baby, that thing was held together with duct tape. Okay. The windows didn't roll down, the air conditioner didn't work, the brakes didn't work, it clicked. It was so, you want to talk about trying to live one life, trying to show that you have one life when your life ain't nothing like that. So I'm definitely seeing that. And I'm just like, yeah, I'm not gonna be able to keep doing this. So we wound up leaving the church. Oh, I left this part out. When we left the parents' church, I was blamed. It was my fault. My Jezebel hussy ass. It was my fault. And when we left that other church, that was my fault too. It's my fault. It's fine though. So we had told that pastor, the mentor pastor, that we were leaving at the airport. Okay, I'm gonna get to that point in a second. So at the airport, because he was living still in Chattanooga, had a wife and kids and all of that in Chattanooga, and was flying in every Sunday to have church, right? So we told that pastor, yeah, we're not gonna be able to do this no more. I used the reason of all of this, miles on my car. And also like we weren't getting paid for this, right? So we're doing staff work, but not getting paid, not getting compensated in any type of way, not even gas. Then sometimes we would get there and nobody was there. How did we drive a whole hour and a half to get here? And there are people here that are here in Orlando. Y'all got in last night. Why ain't nobody here to open the door? And or why don't we have a key? Like it was a lie. So I was just like, yes, so it's a no for me. Like I'm no. At this time, anyway, I won't talk about that. So uh we tell him at the airport, we're not gonna be able to do this. And he basically cussed us out and just got on the plane. I don't think he used curse words, but he very much used some word curses. And then got on the plane. What child? Probably about 3 months after that, my ex gets a message or something from somebody. And I don't know if it was Lipstick Alley or if it was one of them other alleys, girl, but why the pastor, the mentor pastor, I told you he was living in Chattanooga. Well, what he was doing was stopping off in Atlanta so he could go see his boo thing in Atlanta. And they got him and his penis all over the internet because he was dating men. Girl, it was so crazy. So God had like told me to get from out of there before all of that started popping off, because there were people that had came to that church because of me, because they knew me and we had gone to school together, and they were like, oh, Kimberly's there, like da da da. And girl, it was not right. Okay, it was not right. So that scandal happened with that church, but we were already gone. So then after that church, we wound up going to another church in Tampa. I don't really remember how we got to that church, but I remember that the church was a part of Full Gospel, woman pastor. So I'm like, okay, bet, cool, no worries. And that pastor took a vested interest in me and like building a relationship with me, which was interesting, but okay. But also by this time, I kind of started knowing that I had like some kind of real gifts. And I was open to seeing where those gifts could lead me. So we get to that church, and at my time at that church, I was singing in the choir, singing on the praise team. I was a Sunday school teacher. I also taught the Sunday school teachers how to teach. I also was created and ran the social media ministry. I also wrote and directed a play and was just very much a part of that church. Like if pretty much most of the time, not necessarily every time, but if when the doors were open for different things, I was there most of the time. I was one of the prayer warriors and like all of this. It was a lot. And what was interesting at that church, and this is what made me think about all of this and start telling these different accounts and experiences. So the ex was not minister of music, but praise and worship leader, okay, at that church. And he never really had the skill set to be minister of music. Like he didn't play, he played the drums, but he didn't play the piano or anything. But also, he did not have the temperament to lead anybody. He couldn't lead his damn self, okay? So that never worked out. But people would offer it to him because, again, it's a lot of showmanship. But also, when you get behind this Negro don't have no people skills, like just out here, just lodging for life. So, child, the first time we went to this church, it was a fight. The first time we went to the church, and it, I don't know why that wasn't enough for me to be like, this is a no. I don't. That church was an interesting experience, and so let me stay focused. So outside of, all these leadership positions that I wound up having in the church, the pastor also was like, y'all should go to counseling. And y'all, because we engage and we trying to get premarital counseling. And it's evident and obvious that this relationship, he was still cheated. The man, I don't know what his life is like now. I hear he's married, and I pray that lady, I pray, girl, I pray you all right. Okay. I pray you all right over there with them people. But we were doing premarital counseling. So the pastor was like, y'all need to stop having sex and y'all need to go to independent counseling. And I was like, yes. Because remember, I'm trying to get out. I do not have any intentions of getting married for real. Definitely not in the state of the way that things were happening, right? So the physical violence had kind of subsided a tad, but it was just not a safe relationship in any way, shape, or form. So I'm actively trying to get my shit together so I can get out, right? So when she was like, y'all should go to counseling independently, I was like, you right. Then when she was like, and y'all should stop having sex, yes, we should. So we stopped having sex, started going to counseling, all that. That was probably the best thing that came out of my experience there at that church because I was able to get to somebody who could help me. So I absolutely appreciate that. But anyways, so over time, I was at that church probably 3 or 4 years, maybe. Let me see. When did I start with AMTC? In 15. And then I think I had my shine in 17, 16 or 17. Yeah. So I was probably at that church for maybe like 3 or 4 years. Okay. Made the logo for the church. The logo, they done changed the name of the church, not y'all. Cause and I tell you, shit's wild. Wild. But they done changed the name of the church and all that kind of stuff over there. But even the logo that they have now is similar to the logo that I redid for them. And so I was deep off in that church. And during this time, I went through a period, I wasn't listening to any secular music at all. I was only listening to talk religion radio. So, like 88.1 FM or something like that. So, Tony Evans is coming on and all this, like everything that's about God, you know, white man's God, though. So, I got called into entertainment in 2015 or so. So I started doing my training, my acting and modeling training, and the organization that I received my acting and modeling training through it's not in existence anymore, but it was called Actors, Models, and Talent for Christ. So they also are, talking about God and what that looks like to show up in the entertainment industry and be the light. But it wasn't very like preachy and like indoctrinational type of situation. It was very much you are the light. And when you walk in these places, understand that you're the light and your job is there. Your job is to shine your light. And people will see that you are different because of the light that you carry. So I have to tell that story another time. I have told it many times, but I have to tell it with intention about how I wound up in this situation of acting and modeling because it was not on my bingo card. But anyway, I bring it up because my Shine, so Shine was a not a showcase. Shine was a showcase of all the talents that you had, all the things that you had learned, and agents would come and agencies would come. And many people got discovered at Shine. I got an agent and got signed from Shine. So you would, showcase your particular areas. So for instance, mine were like script reading, cold reading and modeling. And I think I had one more acting one, but mine were primarily in acting and modeling. My ex did Shine too, and his was in singing, acting, and modeling. And then there was also like comedy, there was dance, there was different types of acting. So like improv and like a solo improv, group improv. It was a lot. So every aspect of the entertainment industry at the time, they were giving us specific training in that so that you would be able to showcase those talents. So anyway, I get my agent, all of that. I get signed. I have a successful Shine. I realize like my life is about to change. So I go to the pastor. And I was like, hey, so by this time, me and the ex, so that happened in 2013. So in 20, okay, I'm sorry, I'm going back. We got to the church in like 2013. That is when I called off the wedding. Okay. And then by 2017, we were trying to be friends because I had realized I was like, you don't even like me as a person, bro. And I don't even like you. Like, you're not even authentic. So what are we doing? Like, we should actually be friends if we're going to get married. So maybe we start there. So I was trying to like be friends. That wasn't successful for a reason, but that's what was happening. So anyway, so by this time we had broken up. He was showing his ass, baby, out there at them people church. So I don't know if he definitely had got sat down a few times, but I don't remember if they had let him go or whatever. But I had met with the pastor and okay, so before I get to that, so the reason I had brought that up is because when we broke up and he was showing his ass, the pastor, would try to call me and talk to me about him and like gossip about him. And I was like, I don't want to talk about him. Like, if you're calling me to have a relationship with me, then call me and talk to me about me. I'm not here to be your gossip buddy. And then it was a lot of triangulation that was happening at the church. So there was another lady that I had become friends with who was younger than me. And the pastor had adopted her like as her daughter. And it was very dysfunctional. And then the pastor was telling her one thing and telling me something else. And then my ex and the friend lady was talking about me behind it was a lot. And I was like, hey, chaos and drama. I don't like this. Like, this is a lot. So God has started telling me that I was going to leave. God was like, you finna leave there. So you do these things that I'm telling you to do. So I take the pastor out to dinner and I'm like, hey, I've been doing my acting modeling training and, I don't remember if I had already had Shine or if I was about to, but I was like, God is shifting me and I'm not really sure where God is sending me, but I realized that my life is shifting. So I'm going to be leaving the church. So the pastor said, well, God don't want you in the wilderness. Girl, who finna be in the wilderness? I know the Lord. Like, what are you talking about right now? So she's like, well, God don't want you in the wilderness and such and such and so, and just was not supportive in any way, shape, or form. So I didn't really know what to say to that because I done already told you what God said. And it was kind of like coming off like God don't talk to you. God can't tell you nothing. God got to tell me. Or like, I don't know. But it was real, it was weird energy. And I was also like, I said what I said, and I'm about to be from out of here because this shit's dysfunctional, right? Because I'm in therapy now, girl. You got me the therapy child, and she letting me know, hey, this ain't how this supposed to work, Kimberly. Mm-mm. That's dysfunctional. So I tell the pastor, this is what made me think about it. Because every time I think about how my idea of God has changed and how my idea of God has shifted, I go back to that lady telling me that God don't want me in a wilderness and what the perception of the wilderness means or meant, right? So anyway, when I left that church, I was very meticulous about what I did. I sent certified letters. I let certain people know every move. I was very intentional. Long story short, I left after the play that I mentioned. So I co-wrote and directed a Easter play. And after that play, that was the last Easter that I was there. That was the last time I was at that church, that Easter. The play was so amazing. It was successful. It was called Life of Christ, Life of Mine. And I don't remember the whole plot and all that kind of stuff or whatever. But anyway, it was very successful. And that was the last day that I stepped foot in that church because the next week I had gotten sick. And then after that, God was just like, you're not going back there. So I sent the letters and all that kind of stuff. And look, child, after that, oh, and let me tell you what the letter says. So the letter was basically, I did not unpack all of the fuckery and foolishness that was happening. I just simply was like, my season here is done. And I thank you all for the opportunities and the ways that you pushed my gifts and like all of that. I'm going to have to find that letter. Let me see if I can find it. Hold on. Let me pause this. Y'all, I done found the letter. Okay. Let me come over here. I'm not gonna share it because I don't wanna I don't know what kind of information I have in here, so I'll self-edit myself. But let me tell you, child, what the letter said, honey. Okay, because I believe in receipts, baby. Okay, so this was April 30th of 2015. Greetings and blessings. Jeremiah 18, 1 through 4, New King James Version. The word which came to Jeremiah from the Lord, saying, arise and go down to the potter's house, and there I will cause you to hear my words. Then I went down to the potter's house, and there he was, making something at the wheel. And the vessel that he made of clay was marred in the hand of the potter, so he made it again into another vessel as it seemed good to the potter to make. When I came to this ministry, I was a broken person who was unsure of my place in ministry. I had just come out of dealing with 2 years of depression and low self-esteem. I was involved in church, but had no idea what it meant to have a personal ministry. I didn't like to pray in public as I felt that I didn't know the right words to use. My worship was very private, and I had the it doesn't take all that mentality. I was absolutely fine with being in the background, standing out of the way of main attention. Here, I became an active member of the music ministry and grew stronger in my love and ability to sing and lead others in praise and worship. I became a Sunday school teacher. Though teaching was not something I was foreign to, I was unaware of what I could bring to a group of young adults who knew just as much about the Bible and ministry as I did, if not more. I learned through that experience how the Holy Spirit will guide a conversation to the exact place that all those gathered need in order to receive God's comfort and revelation. I was allowed to further develop the social media ministry. I was able to learn about media, print marketing, and graphic design, as well as video commercial creation, because I had also done a voiceover we had filmed and created a commercial. I did the voiceover for the commercial. Like I was in the things. Um, these are talents that were lying dormant within my spirit, waiting on the right time to be exposed. All of those talents came together in the conceptualization, creation, and execution of the Easter production, Life of Christ, Life of Mine. Most importantly, while I've been here, I have discovered my place and calling in my personal ministry. I have a strong apostolic calling over my life. Okay, so let me pause here for a second. So what had happened when I got over there to therapy, this is like so foundational in everything that I do. So when I got to therapy, my therapist was like, I want you to take a spiritual gifts test. So I take the spiritual gifts test and it came back as an apostle and as a prophet. And I had heard those words before, but I really didn't know what they meant. And this particular time, I actually like took a vested interest in figuring out what those words actually meant and what they meant for me. And that's how Discover Your Destiny was born. Because through this process, I started to understand, girl, yes, you do have a calling. And that is why when you're in certain spaces, this is what your experiences are like. So by this time in 2015, I had already figured that out and had started accepting that. So I said, I have a strong apostolic calling over my life. I've come to learn that this is why I have such a strong need for order and a desire to operate out of a spirit of excellence in all things. I've spent a large portion of my life wondering why I operated the way I did. I spent much time wondering why people, even here in this church, resented me and made fun of me so much for the things that make me into who I am. Originally, I believed my gift was meant to further develop this ministry. However, it has come clear through much prayer and fasting that God's desire is to use a different place to cultivate the calling inside of me. This church was the place that was meant to uncover my gifts. I will forever be grateful for that. Had I not shown up to the place of the outpouring, God would not have revealed this deeper part of me. Had I not allowed myself to remain on the potter's wheel, I would still be a broken vessel, unable to be used to full capacity. Ecclesiastes 3:1. There is a time for everything and a season for every action under the heavens. Having said all of the above, my season here at this ministry has come to an end. God has asked me to move on to a new place in order to experience the next level of ministry in my life. I am unsure at this time of the next ministry that the Lord will lead me to join. He has given me a list of churches to visit. I am fully confident that as I seek him daily, he will guide me to the right place for this next phase of my life. As John 14:6 states, Jesus answered, I am the way and the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. God is showing me as I seek him daily for the next steps that he will reveal them in his own time as he is ready. But as I've learned, if I want to know the way, I have to lean on him. Now begins the faith walk that I have asked for. I do believe our paths will cross again. I hope that when they do, that I will be greeted as a friend and not an enemy. I have nothing but gratitude to offer to this church. You all supported me through some of the roughest times of my life. There is never an ideal time to leave, except for when God ordains it. I will continue to pray for you all. I hope you will do the same for me. I'm looking forward to sharing all that God has in store for me. If anyone asks where I am or how I am doing, feel free to share the words in this letter with them. With deep respect and regard, Kimberlyn Jackson. Then I enclosed in the letter their social media passwords, the editing site for the website. I linked the email addresses that needed to be wherever they were. I gave user IDs and pins, the customer service information, how the event calendar was controlled, the social media email and password, the Facebook email and password, the Twitter email and password, the Instagram email and password. So here are your things, right? Because I don't believe that anything should die with the person. So here are your things so that you all can be successful. So I sent the letter, child. You know, after that, that lady, that pastor went and told them people that I left because I don't like nobody correcting me. Girl, what are you even talking about? What are you talking about? When did you try to correct me? And when did I not listen to your correction? And why is you sitting here lying to these people? What are you talking about, girl? It was wild. I saw that lady, that pastor again. And I don't remember if it was July of that year or if it was the next year. Because remember, I used to go home every summer to New Orleans for Essence. Well, they had the Full Gospel Conference, and I had gone to the Full Gospel Conference. She full gospel. And the other lady that I was friends with, she came to the conference too. She was staying in my house, her and her son, like all of this, at my mom and them house. Child, a pastor shows up one day to see her daughter, who is the lady that I was friends with, and couldn't even fix her face to say two words to me, baby. Not two words. Now, you a pastor. You were my pastor. We at a conference where we supposed to be learning about God and how to show up as better Christians, and you can't even fix your face to say hello? Girl, what? That's when I was like, oh, you don't really know God, do you, huh? Wow. Not the God that I know. Not the God that will allow me to honor somebody else's gift where she thought that she was going to be able to have control over me and my gift. And I'm going to be in the wilderness if I leave and all this and that. Girl. So anyway, so I left that church apparently in 2015. And then I went over so I wasn't there that long. So I was only there, maybe must have been 2 years then. Wow. Okay. So then I left that church and I went to another church. The next church that I went to, I went uh by myself, I believe. I'm trying to think of how my ex wound up getting there if we were because we weren't together, but the perception was very much like we were together, but we weren't. It was really interesting. But anyway, I get over to the next church, and the next church was a Black couple. And this church was in Riverview, where I used to live. So it was much closer to my house. But again, a mega church, right? But I'm gonna walk up in this church. I'm not about to make the same mistake. Let me let these people know who I am when I walk up in the door. So I requested a meeting with the pastor, and I was like, I want to tell you who I am, and we'll see like how I can serve this ministry. So the pastor definitely knew my name, knew who I was, knew who my ex was, knew who my best friend was at the time, like very much was in the circle of being known at that church. I was at that church. When did COVID happen? In 2019, 2020. Okay, so it must have been about 2 years at that church. So I show up to that church and I'm like, at my previous church, I did social media, I did announcements, I was in the choir, I was on the praise team, da, 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 da. But also, I really didn't want to be doing things at that church. So I was also very intentional about being selective because by this time I had been in counseling, I had been in therapy, and I was working on boundaries and not allowing people to misuse my gift and take advantage of me. So anyway, at that church, I wound up I did social media for a little bit, and then I definitely was a part of small groups. I'm trying to think of any leadership positions or anything that I held there. I don't think I held any leadership positions officially. I had signed up like for different classes and stuff, but I don't think there were any official leadership positions. But let me tell you why I left that church. So this has to be 2017, maybe. I don't know. Time start running together. I'm sure I have a receipt in here that could tell you something, but let's just say it's 2017 for now. So golly, I left that first church in 2015 before, right when I was like, oh yeah, God finna take me somewhere, girl. So let me get on a good foot and get up out of here. Okay. But anyway, so I get to the next church, and my ex was still there, right? So he's not praise and worship. He's a praise and worship leader, but not the main praise and worship leader. So he's basically on the praise team, and sometimes they will let him lead a song. So because that church was much more bigger and much more bigger. It had more members, and it was much more systematic with the things that they already had in place. So this was like September, I'm gonna say 2017. I'm not sure though, but this was like in September. There is an event in Tampa called the Power Couples Ball. Now, during this time in my work life, I was a student success coach, and we had just decided that we were going to have our first Game Changer Gala. This was about 2017. So we had a connection to someone who was going to be at the Power Couples Ball that we needed to talk to be able to get a donation. Well, my principal couldn't go, the assistant principal couldn't go. So they was like, girl, can you go and get this money? Okay. So I'm like, bet, I'll go, but also I need a date, right? So I call the ex. At this time, the only things that we really doing together have to do with the dog. I would see him at church. Like again, we trying to be friends, but also I am almost out of here, right? But anyway, so I call him and I'm like, hey, you want to go to this ball with me or whatever? So okay, so we get to the ball, and when we first so we parked our own car. We didn't do valet. So we parked the car, and we're walking out of the parking garage, and we see one of the pastors from the current church park their car. I didn't expect to see none of these people. So I was like, this is going to be interesting. So God was like, pay attention, sis. So I'm like, okay. So we get in there, we're a little early, but I'm supposed to be meeting up with this lady to get the tickets but I don't know the lady. So I'm just waiting like for her to get there, but I don't really know her like that. So we get there, me and my ex, and we're walking. It was like a long, long hallway. So we're going to a ballroom in a hotel. So we're walking down the hallway, and as we're walking down the hallway, I see the wife of the pastor at the current church. I peep her, right? They sitting at a table. So like the table is kind of over here, but like then there's like this hallway, but I see them like sitting over here. So her and the pastor we had saw getting out of LA, and then a couple other people at the church who were very much in the inner circle. So we're walking and they see us and look like they saw ghosts. Child, it was like, what y'all doing here? And I was like, hello. So I keep walking because I'm trying to get the tickets. I'm here on a mission. We trying to get this money for these kids. Okay. So anyway, my ex stops and because he's so busy trying to be in the inner circle. He trying to be, hobnobbing with the folks. I don't give a flying shit about none of that. Right. So he hobnobs, whatever. So in this time, I walk up to the table to see if the tickets are there. So the lady wasn't there yet, so she hadn't gotten the tickets. I'm like, okay, cool. So we go to like another standing table that was in that same area, but not next to them. It was across the hallway, and it was just us. So one of the pastors come over there and he was like, oh, man, how you got Kimberly to get out on your arm, huh? And I'm just like, so my ex is like, oh yeah, man, so they doing that. And I don't do that. Okay. So I say to my ex, I'm like, you don't see how they like we don't have a right to be here, or like we don't belong here, like, and you cool with that? Like, nigga. Like, I'm just like, whatever, right? At this point. So anyway, so the lady that had the tickets finally comes and I meet her and we get the tickets or whatever. So now we're going to sit down. We're at like one of the head tables with whoever this lady is. I don't know nothing about these people's power couple ball. Okay. Child, long story short, turns out the pastor and the pastor's wife were being inducted into the new power couple circle that day, right? I didn't know that. But what happened was they did this long, drawn out situation of like introducing all the couples in the power couple situation and all that kind of stuff. And at some point I go to the bathroom. And when I walk into the bathroom, I see a lady from the church who we had been to her house, talked with her and her husband many times. And this lady couldn't even fix her mouth to say nothing to me. So I was like, oh, y'all, wow. Like, y'all, wow, wow. So I go into the bathroom and then I hear the pastor's wife. She was in the bathroom too, but I hear her come out the stall and they talking or whatever. And she washing her hands and all this. And I just bust out laughing because y'all can't be real. Like, y'all can't be. Y'all are supposed to be my pastor. Like, this is wild, right? So she washes her hands, she walks out. I'm standing at the sink cracking up. So I leave out the bathroom and I'm going back to go into the ballroom where she had stopped in the hallway to fix something with her dress or something was happening. So I walked past them or I'm about to, and then she was like, hey. I said, you ain't got to do all that. And I just kept walking. I'm not, girl, this fake ass girl, what? And then this a side note of tea. Both the pastor and the pastor's wife supposedly have doctorates. Child is one of them schools that ain't a real school. So y'all around here calling yourselves doctors and you're not. But anyway, that's just a piece of tea for somebody to chew on. But after that, I was like, girl, anyway, that night, I was like, I'm not going back to that church ever again. Done that day. Then people ain't never looked for me, ain't never called me, ain't nothing. And that's how I be knowing, because once you leave a church or once you transition and like church is not supposed to be gangs, y'all. They're not. We're all supposed to be a part of the kingdom. And that's when I say, like, people try to make God so small. Like, I can only find God here in your church with you and your nasty ass attitude. Like, that, no, that's not how that works at all. So I'm starting to understand, left that church that day. So I said to myself, you know what? Let me stop going to Black churches and let me try to go to white church and let me see what that's like. So now I go to the next church. So this is the last church that I was a part of before I was just like, okay, we're done here. So go to the next church. This church is a white church with a bunch of satellite campuses, right? So by this time, I don't know why I chose, I guess that was the closest campus because I was living in Riverview and the campus was in Ybor. So it wasn't very far, but it was farther than the other church that I was having to go to that was in Ybor, but whatever. So I get to that church, and basically, like I said, it was a satellite campus. So the main campus was in Carrollwood, which is another area of Tampa, which was like an hour and some change away from my house. So they would have the main pastor preach there, and then it would just have the screen on for the message at the satellite campus. I had kind of like that because I was like, I'm just here to get my word and then get from out of here because it's been too much. But me being who I am, this is a small, campus or whatever. So they're basically like, who are you and how can you serve? So I wound up being not a part of, the head of the hospitality ministry. I don't remember what they called it, but I was in charge of the greeters. I was in charge of offering and counting the money and packaging the money for deposit and um, making sure that people were greeted when they came, and then that new members got their new member gift after service and like all of that, right? So these people definitely know me. Okay. So I'm serving in that capacity. I'm doing that. By this time, my ex, so this extended into 2020 because my ex had showed his ass for the last time in February of 2019. But let me, before I even jump there, he had followed me to that church because I told you that night at the ball, I was like, I'm not going back to the people church. So I show up to the next church and he's showing up trying to act like we together. Hey, sir, we're done with this. Like, we're not doing this anymore. I am so done with this. So the pastor had even asked me one time, like, are y'all together? And I was like, no, we're not at all. You can treat us as independent people. And he just wound up stop coming because the only reason he was coming was to try to stalk me. Like, it wasn't like he was actually invested. So by this time, I had met Lewis. So in 2019. So the last time I had to see my ex was the end of February in 2019. Lewis and I officially started dating in March of 2019. So then by April, another Easter. um this is so crazy. I didn't realize the timing of all of this. But anyway, Lewis had come to the church and met the pastor and like all of that, right? So 2019 was a crazy year. And we were getting married, and then we decided we weren't getting married. And then I lost my job. And through all of this time, the church didn't really do much. They were just like, oh, okay. Then when COVID happened, I never heard from them people again. Never heard from those people again. And that is when I think it finally clicked for me. Y'all really not being who God told y'all to be. And the way that we're treating church like it's a game is blowing my mind. But by this time, I already knew that I was the gift. So, and I knew what my gifts were. And by this time, I had realized having an apostolic calling, your job is not to go and stay at places and just be there forever. Your job is to go and establish and roll out. So as you notice, I've been like, and then this happened, and then 2 years later, this happened, and then 2 years later, this happened. It literally was like a 2 to 3 year cycle that God was like, all right, girl, we done. We did what we came here to do, and we out of here. But yeah, through COVID, and realizing how those people never, ever, ever checked on me, I was like, okay, we're done with this concept of church and like y'all not practicing what y'all preaching. And I'm not okay with that. So I was done with that. So since 2020, I have not like joined any churches online or whatever, because mind you, 2020, I also left Florida and moved up north. And then when I was in Pennsylvania, we in the height of COVID, ain't nobody going to church for real. So I wasn't a part of anybody's church. I would tap in every so often, but I wasn't really a part of anybody's church. And then in 2021, I left the country. So I really just started focusing on what I had mentioned in that letter, my personal ministry and my personal relationship with God. And through all of this is it's just so like timing is just so everything, because all of this is happening right before Easter. And a lot of these transitions happened right before Easter. And I just feel like God kept redirecting me. The reason that Jesus died, I don't know if we know this, so let me move my mic a little closer so that we can hear me. The reason that Jesus died was so that we didn't have to go through a man or woman or person to be able to access God. When Jesus died, so that's what's happening right now on this here Good Saturday, between Good Friday and Easter Sunday, is Jesus is down in hell, getting the keys from the devil, ripping the veil where the veil was torn, and the veil was a part of the inner courts where only certain people could go in there to talk to God. So Jesus ripped that veil so that we are able to go directly to God. And Jesus left us with the gift of the Holy Spirit inside of us, that is God inside of us, to be able to know how we're supposed to move and show up and treat other people and all that kind of stuff. So in these experiences that I've had with religion, it has really shown me the difference between religion and relationship. And people say that, but I really grew to understand, when I have a personal relationship with God and I don't have to go access somebody else, that God shows up. God just sitting here waiting like, girl, yeah, what's up? What you talking? What you talking? What's up, my daughter? What's going on? Um, and I like it that way. I like that I don't have to go find God. I don't have to go to a building. I don't have to go to a person. That God is inside of me. And all I have to do is put myself in position to be able to hear and to listen. So that's today's story time. And again, it's the day before Easter. So that is the time. This is an amazing time to really reflect on where you are with God and your relationship with God, and what kind of boxes you've been putting God in. You know, for me, I feel like just put God in boxes of, you can only show up in certain ways, or um, just not, in the past, I can say, not being open to understanding there are different pathways to God, because that is my issue, I think, with religion, is that religion is like the mine is better than yours, and this is the only way, and blah, blah, blah. And it can't be. How can God be all present, all powerful, all knowing, all things at all times, all at the same time, and also the only way that you can get to God is through this way? That don't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense to me. And I'm seeing more and more that, especially with the reintegration of cultural practices, and again, the version of Christianity that we received, this very whitewashed, white supremacist led patriarchal idea of Christianity and God and how women are supposed to show up in those spaces. I just reject it all. I just reject it all, because I am a living testimony that That's not that's not who God is. And I hate that so many of us have been introduced to this God that's sitting in heaven, just waiting to throw down lightning bolts and strike us down, when God is so compassionate and caring and loving and just wanting to be there with us and to help us to show up as the best versions of ourselves so that we're able to lead people towards the light and able to help people see that there is a different way to show up. Um, there have been drastic changes in my life because of me having a personal relationship with God. I used to be so judgmental. When you talking about sending somebody to hell, baby, I was sending you to hell with gasoline draws on. First class ticket to hell. Okay. Because I thought that's what I needed to do to be a great Christian. And I remember one day, I don't remember what year it was, but I remember one day, I believe it was while I was at that last church, that I asked myself, why does it matter? Like, why does it matter to me if someone is a homosexual or if someone is transgendered, or like, why am I taking that on? And I feel like during that time, God was like, girl, that's not your job, sis. Your job is to love people. Your job is to love yourself. Your job is to love me, love yourself, and love others. And then it goes back to the greatest commission, the what is it called? The Great Commission. Love thy neighbor as thyself, right? And love no other gods before me. And go out and tell people about it. So that's what I've been doing. I've been focusing on knowing God, hearing God's voice and knowing God's voice, honoring God's voice when I hear God's voice, and teaching other people how to do the same. Because we don't have to go through a person to meet God. We don't have to go through a person to know God and to have a relationship with God. God is there and God is waiting. So I invite you to find your favorite place, find your a place that makes you feel calm in your mind and peaceful in your spirit, and just talk to God. I be talking to God like God is one of my homeboys. And let me say this too. I personify, and I'm working on this, right? I have to start talking about this. I call God and envision God as a he, because having a father is something that has always been absent in my life. Having a mother as well. So I might as well just think of God as they, because that is how I was parented, with God being both my father and my mother, because my mother was not protecting me and my father was absent and my dad was doing the best he could. So I from a very young age was praying to God and like, hey, I need your help. I also like the idea of a spirit team and honoring our ancestors. And again, that's one of the cultural things that I think has been stripped from us, of realizing, if we believe that our ancestors are going to heaven, you don't think they up there talking to God trying to make sure we all right, you know? Um, so yeah, I just invite you to take a moment to really analyze where you are in your walk, in your personal walk with God, in your personal relationship with God, and what that looks like and sounds like. And invite God in newly, even if you've known God the whole time. Like, show me a new side of yourself, God. Show me something different about how big you are and how amazing you are, and the things that you can do, and the things that you are doing, and the ways that you have kept me. Like, when I think back through all the stuff I've been through, it wasn't nothing but God, because I should be dead. And I mean that so many times over. It was nothing but God. And that's how I know that I have a purpose, because I'm still here and you're still here and you have a purpose. So I think that's all I wanted to say for today. If you are not following me in all the places, let me just mention where all the places are. So you can go to my website, KimberlyJackson.com. There you will be able to find my blog. I started writing my blog, I believe in about 2017 or so. So insert that in this timeline of what I'm telling you. I also talk about that relationship with my parents as well as my ex in my blog. So that's a great place to go and hang out for a little bit. You can also find out about Discover Your Destiny there on my blog, or you can go to the direct link, which is dyd25.com, dyd25, the numbers 25.com. And at Discover Your Destiny, you can learn about what I do. Like I told you, I help people build a deep personal relationship with God. And this is why. This is the story of how that happens. So dyd25.com. I also help people leave the US. If you are someone who is looking to get out of the US, you can go to Finding Peace Abroad. There you will find findingpeaceabroad.com. There you will find my calendar link where you can schedule some time for us to have a strategic planning session to help you to get from out of there. I'm also an intuitive melanated life coach, and I host healing circles. So if you are a Black woman who is someone who identifies as a Black woman or femme, and you have experienced racialized trauma in the workplace, you are realizing that you're neurodivergent and trying to process that, or you just need a space to be held for you in all of the things as Black women living in the US or having lived in the US that we have experienced and not feeling like you have to explain yourself. I invite you to go to tinyurl.com/Black Women Healing Circle. And there you will be able to find that information. And I'll put all of that into the description below. Also, hopefully you are following me on YouTube at Minding My Black Ass Business. Please do subscribe to the page, like this video, leave a comment. If there is anything that I said that sparked something, please do leave a comment. And Minding My Black Ass Business on all platforms, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, as well as Kimberlyn J on Instagram. Okay. So if you're not connected with me in all those places, push the buttons, push the things, get with your girl. Okay. I am going to be having a new cohort of Discover Your Destiny coming up this summer. So if that is something that you're interested in, I will be creating a waiting list soon for that. So you will be able to sign up, get your name on the waiting list. And then once registration is open, then you'll be able to go ahead and sign up for registration. All right. So that's it. That's all. This impromptu reflection on the Saturday before Easter. I hope you enjoyed. All right. Bye.